We're shedding our masks and breaking down walls. Hell, we may even drop our drawers. That's right. We're going Commando with Angela and Dana. Okay. Hi, my name is Dana Sardano, and this is Angela DeMarco, and we are Going Commando. Going Commando is a little show that we put together because we understand the importance of authenticity, and we understand how important it is to just be true to who you are, embrace that, and bring it to the world. And we're doing that, and we're hoping by doing so, we encourage you to do the same. Good morning, Ms.
Good
Angela.
morning, Dana. I'm totally leaving in that burp.
Oh, no!
I've got the power. This is how we start. All right, so Going Commando.
Okay.
Going Commando.
Here we go.
We're pretty.
So pretty.
All right, so we're going to get into, this is the last episode of season 6. Oh my God.
Yes, a moment of silence. Let's have a moment of silence.
Can we do silent? I don't know. I'm like, how do we even do silent?
I'm like, okay, that's good.
That's enough. But so we're going to do something special today to kind of wrap up all of the stuff that we've talked about. But before we do that, Dana was flaunting her new product, and I wanted to kind of share a product that I really love too. Now I want to share. So a good friend of mine, her name's Eleni Polito. She is an esthetician. She used to work for Estee Lauder, and she's amazing. She's esoteric. She's very lives in the 5D manifestation world. But she's all about love, and she has created a skincare line from her heart, and it is phenomenal. Like I can't. So it's called FOSS. FOS. It's fossskincare.com. And this is the toner, and this is the serum. I put this on my face. I put these on my face, and my face is like, thank you. Like it drinks it. Like it accepts it in such a way. And she's got so many different products, but they're all like absolutely amazing ingredients. They do all the things that they say they're going to do. This is comparable with like the $300, $400 creams on the market and things like that. Like this line is going to be very, very expensive very soon because it's like the world's best kept secret. She's got traction. She's got sales. She's in 2 independent spas in California already. And it's just amazing. Her products last 5 months, whereas other things last 3 months. She tells you how to use them. Like she just knows so much, and they're just amazing. She's got this oil that's like a rose oil for the face. Oh my God. So if anybody is listening and you guys know of anybody who is like an angel investor or potentially can help Eleni get to the next level, she's ready. She's got a lab. She's looking for another redundancy lab. She eventually wants to have her own chemist. This line is absolutely incredible. She's trademarked here in the US. She's about to be trademarked in the EU. She wants to set up Villa de Fosse in Greece and operate out of Greece. It's just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Fossskincare.com. Get it while you can afford it. It's absolutely amazing. You support my friend, and yeah. So, Foss.
I got 2 things that are. One is people need to know that there's no sponsorship.
No. This is out of our love.
When I'm scrolling through reels and stuff, and somebody starts like talking about their thing, and I'm always like, sponsored. But this is really out of like the love of the game. So that's the first thing. The second thing is buy me one of each of what you just showed, and I will send you money.
I'll send you to the website.
Okay.
Well, no, I'll go to Eleni. So Eleni did my eyebrows too. Like my eyebrows. This is microblading. And she's a wizard. She's a wizard, folks. She makes hair where it wasn't before. But I go there, and she wants to do this SPF line. I mean, the cream, the eye cream, her oh my God, it's also amazing. Also amazing. So yes, I will get this for you. I got this toner for you 2 years ago when she developed it.
You did. I loved it. But I like the serum stuff. Like I like the idea of the serum stuff. It's funny because as you're talking, I'm so tempted to do this.
Do it.
I can't get into her for like another month to like August. I'm like, oh, that did help actually. It is.
No,
It is
for
bad.
new viewers, what is this
bad.
again? The name of you go ahead.
Volek. It's Volek, and basically it's powder to cover my roots until, the most popular hairdresser in all of the land, fits me in. All right, enough about this. Let's talk about why we're here today.
All right. So we've been talking, all of season 6 has been about balance. Excuse me. Doesn't want to come out. Okay. We're so sexy. Okay. And we have been trying. Damn it. Okay, it's gonna be the longest episode ever. Okay. We've been talking about how to kind of rectify imbalances that have arisen through different stages of development. And we're using Dana's book, Veda Finds Her Crown. And as a guide, we've been using it as a guide for the season. And so we've been doing 2 episodes per chakra. There are 7 chakras in that we know of in the human body, and think of them as like spinning energy centers. And just like when they're clear and when they're all functioning, think of a well-oiled machine. When everything's functioning, everything is balanced and everything feels really good in your life, and you're following your purpose. You can see the bigger picture. You feel safe. You feel grounded. All those wonderful things. But sometimes the something gets caught in the wheels and they don't spin as efficiently as possible. So we're not saying that, just because you had a small trauma in your childhood, like 5 years old, you got left at school or something and no one came to pick you up for half an hour and it was very traumatic. We're not saying that's the reason why your life sucks, but that's something that's in the machine that's not causing it to work well. And it's created some beliefs and imbalances in your life as an adult to cope with that feeling of maybe abandonment, whatever it could be. So doing this work, even on a small scale like that, really just like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe when we have these awarenesses of these little things like, oh shit, that was really, stressful for me as a kid. And now I'm always like calling people, where are you? And I don't like that behavior. It changes everything. So it's been awesome. If you want to do the work yourself, we highly recommend going back to the beginning of season 6 and grabbing yourself a copy of Veda Finds Her Crown. You can get it at phenom-publishing.com or on Amazon, but get the second edition because the second edition has a really great workbook in the back. So you could just do this work on your own and comment if you do, like, let us know how your world is unfolding. If you have questions, like Dana's here. So tell us what we're going to do today, Dana, to wrap the season up.
So today we are going to just go through each of the chakras, and we are just going to talk about a realization that we might have had through doing the work, or maybe a realization just along the way. Okay. And we're going to start with the rooter. We're going to start with the root. And I'm going to start because I have been thinking about this a lot. It's funny as we do. I mean, we did 16. This is our 16th episode in this season. And so we are, forced isn't the right word, but like we go back and we're thinking about it. Like I think about it before the episode, after, like we're really going back and thinking about all this stuff. And when I talk about the root chakra for me, I always talk about how I felt safe growing up and I was grounded and I had a strong parental unit and I had strong male figures and a lot of my trauma comes from my sacral chakra. But I never really thought about my level of insecurity because the relationship between my mother and my brother and the relationship between me and my brother, my mother favored my brother. It seemed like they all favored my brother, if I'm being honest, but specifically my mother. And my brother was allowed to treat me in a certain way. So I had all these insecurities about myself that I didn't even realize stemmed from that. That's root. And so when I look back, like the having to overcompensate to get people to love you or not feeling worthy of love and all those things, even though they came later, that stemmed from like this big. Yeah. From this big. I had a memory through all this work. It could start from a dream or whatever, but a memory of being like in the crib. And I must have been crying. And my brother, he was scared. Whatever his reasons were, he hit me and told me to shut up. And nobody corrected his behavior. It started there. And I didn't even realize any of this. I've written the books and I didn't realize any of this until we did this work. So that was my huge realization.
Wow. I mean, I remember when you had that too. I mean, that was like to have that kind of memory. It's because, you're so opened up and you feel safe to do the digging. So that's why you were allowed to get right. Cause now, like, okay, these things are great. Like I have nothing to fear by having these realizations because I know it's going to help me understand my behaviors and patterns and things like that.
100%.
That was,
it brought me to the root. It brought me that's the root. Being in the crib is the root of all of this stuff. And I was able to pluck it by doing this work with you in the show.
It's amazing. And the root chakra is the ages of resonance are 0 to 7 years old. And it's represented by the color red. Red. Oh, my dream. Shut up. Okay. So mine. When we were doing this work, you don't know what you don't know till you know. And having the comparison of how your existence was compared to my existence from 0 to 7, it really it shined a light on how it created all the behaviors. Like you had the grounding, you had the structure, like you had so much structure, that you had the dinner table, you had all of that. I had moved in 7 years. I moved to eight different places. I had 3 different father figures in my life, and including mine who moved to California, and they would stick me on a plane. And I remember, getting to the airport and him being late, so late that I was sitting in an office with the pilots and the steward, like the staff, of the plane.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
It's crazy. And, I'm sure he was just doing the best he could. There's no blame. Yeah. But so of course I grew up with I'm not important enough to keep in mind. I just got shuffled around, and all of that really drove, because I had a huge lack of worthiness, and we'll talk about that. But not feeling loved, not feeling safe, not feeling grounded was all I knew. It's all I knew. So as a kid, I was just going with the flow. Okay, here's your new bedroom. Okay, now we're going to this school. Now you're moving over here. Now you're going to call this guy dad.
Yeah.
Okay. Just go along with it. La, 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 la.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah. Yeah. So now you have the two of us at the root, right? Then when I go into the sacral, for me, I always, I had trauma. I ran away from home. My parents got divorced, the whole upheaval between the ages of 12 and 14 for me. But when we talk about the sacral chakra, again, greatest age of resonance from 7 to 14, and it's about your sense of creativity and your zest for life and your enjoyment, and you're feeling the sensations, freedom of guilt and all that. I realize that was the beginning of some serious depression for me. Though that experience of having complete upheaval in my life, and really everything that I knew and understood just disappeared. All of that grounding just completely disappeared. I didn't realize that it was depression. But if you don't have a zest for life, what's the opposite of having a zest for life? Falling into depression. So I went from always being it's elementary school, middle school, but top of my class and always getting A's. The California test. I think in New York it's Regents. Some people take the Iowa test. I always got the 97, 98, 99th percentile. I always rocked it. And then up through the 8th grade, I still, because it was right before that upheaval. And then I go into high school and I was a C student at best, and nobody knew, nobody cared. But that was a depression I started to fall into because my sacral chakra was out of balance.
Yeah. That's definitely, that was a lot for you. For me, so 7 to 14, that's when I kind of started to have the stability. We'll call it stability. Okay, my mom had my brother when I was 8, and she got married, and we moved into down the block into a bigger apartment kind of thing. And so it was all about, I fell into this motherly role at that point. This is why I've always loved kids so much. And it was because I had something to nurture and something loved me back. My brothers, and then I had Bobby was, mom had Bobby when I was 11. So it was having these 2 little baby boys that were mine. You know what I mean? It was me and them. So to me, they kind of were, I wasn't being paid attention to. Of course, it was all about the kids, but because I was so good with the kids, I got attention.
Yeah. Look at that though. Look at that. How that created a part of your identity, which comes next. You're so good with the kids. Now you genuinely love kids, but if I'm good with the kids,
then they'll pay attention to me. Oh, look how good Angela is. Oh, she took the kids. Oh, thank you, Angela. You know what I mean? I was like little Cinderella. I was cleaning, like I was dusting and vacuuming, and my brothers never had to do anything, or my sister later. But yeah, that was really that time period for me. And middle school sucked. I mean, middle school sucks for everybody, but
of course.
I was just telling Chris about, a friend of mine. I had a friend in 5th grade. Her name was Mary Beth. I called her MB, and she was awesome. She was awesome. She was like the best friend a girl could have, until I met you, of course. And she was just everything. I could be myself around her. And she was just so great. And then I remember towards the end of 5th grade, my mom was like, I think like Mary Beth wasn't around and I had no one else to really hang out with and have a lot of friends. And she was like, you need to be popular. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you home on a Saturday night? And then so I shifted from being friends with her to being friends with people who were not awesome for me because they were popular.
You stepped out of your authentic self. Yeah.
No. So Mary Beth, if you ever hear this, I do have so much regret about that. And I think you're beautiful. And I love seeing your stuff on Instagram. You're crushing it. So.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's awesome. Before I talk about the solar plexus, I just want to touch on another thing about the sacral. You said, you learned that you mattered or that you got attention when you took care of the children. For me, I got in my first fist fight.
I had those. I got my first fist fight.
Yeah, but in the 6th grade, I got my first fist fight, and then there were a few other that came right after that because when I got in that fight, I remember going to visit my grandmother, my uncle, and everybody was there. And it was like, they talked about me and it was like a thing. And like, they were almost kind of proud of it in a weird way. Like the way they treated it, I didn't get in trouble for it. Now, granted, I got in the fight because I was being bullied or whatever. So there was a little bit of like, attaboy, but like, I was like, oh. So I started to learn at that age that the people that I wanted to pay attention to me would pay attention if I acted out in school. Something, huh? So now solar plexus, 14 to 21, age of identity, all about your sense of confidence, your sense of balanced drive, you're believing in your worthiness to pursue your purpose. So now I go from that sacral where I was starting to fall into a little depression. Remember, up to the 8th grade, top grades, 14, 9th grade, complete upheaval in my life. And I truly lost all motivation. Like kids were like involved in sports. Kids were doing things after school. I would go home and I would sleep. And I just never wanted to do anything. And this went on for a long, oh my God, self-soothing. I started smoking pot at a very young age, at 12. Mm-hmm. And I was smoking pot and it was all a part of that self-soothing, lack of motivation. Again, we've talked ad nauseum about my identity being tough girl because I had to overcome, but the realizations, the subtext realizations I've had through doing this work is that I was probably depressed for like 10 years and not even knowing it. Because once I stepped out of that depression, I mean, you can't stop me. I can't like, oh my God, I want to do everything. I'm super creative. I want to do everything. Like once I reconciled those imbalances. So when I look back to how unmotivated I was, that was because of the imbalances.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, continuing, it's interesting. I'm just realizing this now, continuing this pattern of taking care of others to get attention. I was captain of the cheering squad for 2 years. Still baby.
So was I, by the way. I don't think I ever told you that. I was co-captain.
Of course you were. I was co-captain in 9th grade and in junior year. Yeah. Look at us. Having, of course, the same. Yeah.
Having things in common.
God. Like everything, practically. It's so funny.
So continue.
No,
I'm sorry.
But that was like my thing. But I was like the drunk fun cheerleader. I was the one who's loud in the front. I was not doing the stunts. I couldn't jump. I couldn't do all the things. So I was just loud ass one in the front. But that was high school for me. It was partying. I had a good relationship, a tumultuous relationship, but with Paul, like my high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
And, but when I was 18, so I had, 2 people in my life that really paid attention to me. And that was my uncle, my mom's brother, my Uncle John, and my grandmother, my Grammy, my mom's mother. And when I was 18, I go down to Florida, I meet you, 2 weeks of rushing. And then we start school. The next day, August 29th, my uncle dropped dead. And I remember, and I'll tell story. I have stories and articles about this, but just like going back to his funeral and being home, I was like the hostess of the funeral home. I just remember like taking like sweaters and coats and things and going, hanging them up and then hiding behind the coats, crying, dusting myself off and coming back. Oh, do you need water? Do you need tissues? Like that's how I handled the most devastating experience of my life up to that point. And then 9 months later, my grandma died of a broken heart. So these two people, the only people in my family who really paid attention to me, gone. And that's when, I mean, I had started drinking when I was like 13 with my dad. That's a whole other story. but I fell into like drugs. I think I left school. So it was 18, 19, 20. Like when I was 20, that fifth semester, I remember my aunt called me in the middle of the night. She's like, Andrew, you okay? And I'm like, no, why are you calling me? And she was like, I don't know, Grammy told me to call you in a dream. And I was like, I'm on drugs. I need to come home. Like I was so bad. I was so bad. I was practically failing out of school. I had no direction, nothing. And it was all because I had nobody freaking paying attention to me and what was going on, you know?
Yeah.
And then even when I came home, no one was paying attention to me. No one knew what the hell I was doing. So, yeah.
You know, that solar plexus that either you have zero motivation or you're in overdrive, right? You had lost your motivation. You were like wavering, you were rudderless. Mine was interesting because it was like I was both at the same time, but the extremes of both. I was completely unmotivated and completely, again, I'll use the word depressed, but at the same time, my drive to overcome, like I was driven to overcome, like my fight was there because I was angry, but yet I wasn't motivated to do anything that from the heart or anything that was emotion, positive emotion. So it was an interesting paradox.
Yeah. Well, just one thing to say too is the last semester I was down at USF. I had taken an art class. Now I went down to be pre-med because I wanted to be like my doctor. I wanted to be like a doctor like my uncle. And then I failed out after he died. I think I had like a 0.8 my first semester. It was terrible. And then I took psychology. I took all the crime and justice was the coolest class we had on campus. Like SWAT team demonstration. It was awesome. And then that fifth semester, so I was kind of rudderless, going through the motions of being in college. And then I took an art class and I was walking to class with my big portfolio and my T-square hanging out of it and charcoal under my nails. And I was just like, that was the moment I was like, oh, I'm an artist. You know what I mean? And then so that right towards the end of the solar plexus, like I found something that was like, that spoke to my heart. You know what I mean? Found something. And that then led to everything else that followed in my life.
Yeah.
But it became but I needed that one class. It was so cool. Painting, charcoal, and big paper, and messy, and clay.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love that. I love that about some of my education classes because because I was special ed, it was K through 12. So I was taking, we had a lot of classes with, the big paper and like the crayons. I had to create a book and, and that was the best. That was the best, but it took me quite a few more years to figure out I was an artist. So let's talk about the heart chakra. So as we've talked about ad nauseum, that the heart chakra's health is dependent on the health of these foundational years. My realization, not through this work, but my realization overall through becoming balanced and having an open heart chakra is this understanding that, before I get into that, greatest age of presidents, right? It's 21 to 28, represented in green. And it's all about non-judgment, forgiveness, even lack of attachment, compassion, love without condition and expectation, all of that, an open heart. I think we have a pretty good understanding of an open heart. But what I learned along the way is the more I reconciled these imbalances, the more I felt worthy and creative and inspired and fearless and all of these things. You begin to, when you lose the shame of your own experiences, you then can have compassion for others. And my sense of compassion for others is just beyond, because I could always see their root cause. I could always see where they are coming from. As my heart opened, you just understand people. And I'm talking about to the ugliest of behaviors. Oh, I get how they got there. I get where they came. I've been there, or at least a degree of that. So the sense of compassion that I gained through all this work is off the charts.
Oh my God. What does Rob always say? Something about the root cause. Like you guys, when
root cause, root cause. And I'm like,
but you get to the root cause, you get to the issue. It's not about the cut. It's about how you got the cut.
Exactly.
So for me, I always felt like I was living with all my heart, but it was so imbalanced because I was loving with condition. I was loving to be loved. I was overextending to try to feel worthy. I was doing all those things that, because everything was so gunked up. And I would say that my true sense, I never ever, before I got sober at 35, never looked at people and said, oh, I wonder what I never thought to walk in their shoes. I just didn't have that wherewithal to do that,
You couldn't. You were in survival.
Yes, I was totally in survival mode, totally, and not getting my needs met. I didn't use my throat, which we'll talk about in a second. But but what I realized was when I got sober, I started to have compassion for myself. I started to have compassion for my fellows, my fellow sober people that I was with, you know what I mean? For like what they were going through, and starting to hear their stories and starting to feel their overcoming and starting to see their victories and start cheering for other people for the right reasons, from a balanced place. Well, as I cleared out my gunk and found my own love for myself and compassion for myself. And, there were so many things that, and I talked about this before, but when I first got sober, I was like about 3 months, didn't have a bottle to run to, didn't have a drug to pick up, didn't have a solution for the pain that I was in. And I remember laying on a wooden floor and I wanted to dig myself into the floorboards because I had so much shame and so much about everything about myself. I couldn't look in the mirror, all that stuff. And it took a long time for me to love myself the way I love myself now. Now I'm doing my makeup. I'm like, oh, your eyes look banging today, girl. Have a good day. But it has to start from the self. It has to be able to love every aspect of yourself in order to love other people unconditionally too.
Yeah. Because it is codependent and again with condition, with expectation. It's really something when we learn to forgive ourselves, forgive those who we perceive have wronged us, to let go of the judgment of it all and understand that we're all in this together. We're all doing the best we can. Nobody did anything to you, and you could have that level of compassion for yourself and for others. Fucking changes everything. Everything. It's easy to be like, oh, forgiveness is the answer. But if you really truly don't understand the why, like why that's so important and how to do that, then these are just bumper stickers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Forgiveness. And forgiveness is always for you, not for the other person. To forgive somebody 100%. Else. Like I could forgive somebody. Like I can say, what did Jesus say? Forgive them for they know not what they do. People are.
Oh my God, I'm constantly mumbling that under my breath. I'm like, totally don't forgive them. Forgive them for they not know what they do. Forgive them.
But it's so true because people are motivated by their action, by their own fears and dysfunction, and therefore they're not aware. Like I had an instance yesterday. I'm not going to get any details, but it was like it went from this person was acting in a certain way that it was just like, come on, like, seriously, I know why you're acting this way. Do we have to go there anymore? You know what I mean? Like, I could see why, and I could get, I get it.
But here's the thing. If you couldn't see why, it would trigger that little girl in you that was imbalanced. You can see why, and we'll get to clarity in a second because you've cleared out the gunk. So let's talk throat. So the throat chakra, resonance, 28 to 35, but it's blue and it's really about, someone said this 1,000 times, but it's really, really about your sense of truth, your authenticity, your personal integrity, your ability to communicate and not just communicate peacefully, receive information peacefully. But here's the thing. It comes from a place of non-judgment. It comes from that heart space. So how can I be authentic if I don't have an open heart? How can I be not judgmental? How can I listen to other people and be objective with other people and communicate with other people if I'm holding judgments? So for me, the greatest realization, and this isn't recent, this is along the way of my evolution, is not, I can't force my agenda on others. That's always been part of my thing. If I believe something, then you have to believe it too. And I learned through getting my balance, my self-centered and balance, that no, I'm going to believe what I'm going to believe. I'm going to share what I believe. You make a choice whether or not you want to buy into that. And if you don't, then that's okay too. And it took me a lot of work to get to that place of true communication and receipt of communication respectfully and openly.
Yeah. I remember when you wrote me the letter. And if anybody wants to go back to 2 episodes, Dana broke up with me in a letter, and it was vicious and horrible. No, I'm just kidding. but no, we Dana and I are in business together beyond this whole, Commando show. But we had a point where you got to a breaking point because you weren't able to communicate your needs. I wasn't receiving them in the same way. So you felt forced to do something bigger, like to fight for your needs to get met. Yes. It was very was very emotionally driven. And since then, now we're like, no, I don't want to do that. We're like, okay. You know what I mean? But because you and I have both worked really hard to be able to communicate, receive, appreciate each other, and respect each other, it makes us like an amazing co-founders together, because we can safely communicate our needs now without emotionally driven, to force like the getting my needs met, because it's insecure about getting needs met. I realized the downfall of my marriage was because I never communicated what my needs were. And that is my fault, because from the beginning, there were things that bothered me, and I would maybe bring it up, but I was afraid of the reaction. And so like stuff just festered. And then eventually I'm living in a relationship where it's somebody who doesn't know me, and how could you know? That's not fair. That's not fair to my ex to say like, this is all your fault. It's mine. Because I was like, this, I need this. I could use this. This really bothers me. I never did that. And so it just set the pattern of no communication, to the point where we're driving and we have nothing to talk about. Like I'd bring up a car. Oh, what's better, the M4 or the S3 or whatever the fuck I would talk about. And as long as I talked about cars, we were good. But now poor Chris has to deal with me over communicating everything. I'm like, this is what I
need. I'm glad you brought that up, because there is that pendulum. Like I think about how I was always very aggressive as a child trying to express my needs, and it wasn't met. It wasn't met well. So my pendulum went over here, and I would keep my needs to myself. I always joke about how the joke was, we would go out to dinner, and if I would order something rare and it would come well done, I'd be like, no, it's fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I was afraid to communicate my needs, because I didn't want to be the beast or the monster, the one-way street that they said that I was. So the reason I wrote that letter, because if you read that letter, I mean, Angela jokes that it was scathing, but it was actually very beautifully woven to be like, no, but just let you know that this is how I feel, because it took me to get to a letter, because I learned that it was bad if I expressed what I needed. So we got to bring those things back into balance sometimes. So you went from not saying anything to over communicating. You'll find your balance. We all eventually find her. The pendulum's got to slow down at some point and land in the middle.
I just don't know. I mean, expressing my needs feels so good. I don't know if it'll ever change. It's really cool to get your needs met. Be like,
right. Oh my God, I hear all the time in the house. You didn't have to say that. I'm like, I know, but I did.
and just one quick thing about throat chakras. When Dana and I first when Dana and I first got into bed together,
reunited, because it felt so good.
So Dana and I, there's a whole history. Watch another episode, you'll find it somewhere. But I was sick all the time. I always had sore throats. I didn't have strep a lot. It was just sore throats. It was ear infections. I was constantly on drugs. Every 6 months, I was on a new thing. My doctor, I didn't even have to see her. She was just like, oh, I had drugs to take if I was flying because my ears would always go so bad. No problems in the last maybe 2 years.
Yeah, because the energy is free flowing. You talked about, there was a beautiful explanation you did at the beginning about, the well-oiled machine and, and yeah, if the energy is stuck here, then that's the first place. That's your vulnerability. It's the first place the illness is going to go, or any kind of, vulnerability is going to be exacerbated. Okay. So let's talk about the third eye chakra. So third eye chakra, what do we got here? 28, 35, 42. So, but it's indigo or purple, and it's really about your clarity, your vision, your ability to see the big picture, your imagination, your intuition, all of that. And for me, the biggest, I don't know if I call it a realization, but the clarity that I got after I cleared everything out. Because again, perfect example when we were talking about understanding and having compassion for somebody else. If I know what makes you tick, because I have clarity, because I have compassion, right? So I have compassion. I know what makes you tick and I have clarity. I now know how to navigate the situation with you.
Yes.
And also if I have clarity and I could see the big picture and the parts of the whole, I could see you a mile away if you have ill intention. Or if I need to make a decision about something, I have with confidence because I'm worthy, because, I'm open-hearted, because I feel safe. I can see where something is going. So the clarity that I have gotten over the years has made life so much easier. So I guess my realization is clarity makes life easier.
That's a good one. That's a good one. My realization was when we were doing in this season was how I always lived in a fantasy world when I was younger because I was trying to escape the world. So I lived in two worlds. I literally would imagine friends. I would imagine a happy family. I would imagine the traveling and all the things that I could do. And then I would have this existence that I just existed in. And what I realized is that's one of my gifts is having great vision and having to be able to see what the world could be like. But now I see the world, what it could be like, because of joy, because of good. I'm not trying to escape. I just want to make everything better. I could see it better and better and better, but it's not an escape for me because my present and my reality is so amazing. And I didn't realize I did that as a coping mechanism when I was a child.
Yeah.
I really, I remember feeling like I would play and I would be in my own fantasy world. And then there would just be going through the motions with the physical body. It was very interesting to see that as an adult,
Yeah. It's really, really cool. It's really cool because that imagination, that intuition, that third eye stuff, I can remember all of this is a part of us from the time we're born. But when our formative years, this gets really gunked up. Or again, for you, it was an imbalanced coping mechanism. But when this gets cleared up, it's, all of our gifts become imbalanced because of these lower foundational imbalances. And when we balance that, things that we didn't even realize are our gifts. I talk about this all the time. My impulsivity, my drive, all of these things about me that I was taught because they were imbalanced. Even my assertiveness was aggressive. You know what I mean? When I brought those things into balance, I realized they were my greatest gifts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's just something for people to think about. Okay, let's talk crown. So I don't know why I did that. So
they could take me to your leader.
So we always around the 30-minute mark, we always start getting slap happy. You know what I mean? So, okay, crown 42 to 49. That's when you become a little bit older, you become a little bit wiser, but the crown chakra is represented in lavender and in white, and it is here. And it's really about your connectivity to all things. It's about oneness. It's about remaining peaceful in a sea of chaos. It's again, your connectivity to yourself, to others, to the world around you. And for me, my greatest realization was the importance of connecting with nature and being in stillness. I had just up until just a couple of years ago, I had all this other shit on lock, working on my shit, and refused the stillness because I ain't got no time for that. But what I realized, and this is huge, my refusal to be in stillness was stemmed from fear that if I which is solar plexus, that if I slowed down my drive, that my house of cards would fall. And I was so desperate to be successful, to achieve, to do all these things. So my refusal of stillness came from this place. When I realized that, it started with stillness in order to realize that. Like I was forced stillness and then was like, oh, it's my drive. Let's straighten this out. And now stillness is a freaking gift. And my connectivity, my sense of empathy, my sense of being able to feel clairsentience is so off the charts because I finally conceded. I finally acquiesced. I was like, fine. Well, COVID helped, but to sit in that stillness. So that was a huge one for me. It was like a level up game changer.
Totally. And I remember you used to do it, and then you tell me to go sit outside. I'm like, I'm not sitting outside.
You're like,
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Yeah,
I don't have time for that, right? It's like, I don't have time for that. And it should be your first priority if you want to achieve that level up.
Yeah, I don't have time. I have nowhere to go. Blah, 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 blah. And then it turned into, for me, like, sitting with my coffee. Is like you figure out what your grounding is that gives
what works for you.
Like cleaning the house for me grounds me. I don't have music on. I just in my own head. I love taking care of my home. It makes me feel good. But for me, the whole idea is the connectedness, the understanding of what is actually happening. Like this has been like the game changer for me. Like there's like the understanding of really what's going on in our world, in this reality, and what's outside of this reality, and the collective consciousness, and all these things that I now have this weird knowing about. And it's weird because I'm not used to it, but I just get like this knowing because I'm so open to feeling, and I've gotten so good at listening to my inner voice, my higher self telling me and guiding me. That has been like amazing to listen to my gut, like beyond. And it's just like the understanding that I have of our world has made my life so peaceful. And so I always talk about my little bubble. Chris talks about the politics and the things going on and the Biden and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, la, 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 la. It doesn't even faze me because, it's not irresponsibility. It's because I'm choosing not to have that be part of my world. Because we all have a choice. And I think that's the biggest thing is I create my reality. I choose this world that I live in. I choose peace. I choose contentment. And just living in that space. And you know what? I also will say fuck, and I will also be kind of dirty, and I'll also be like, whatever. It's not living in this like, it's exactly gabagool. Gabagool. Because I always had this misconception that if you were one of these people that like a channel who's, you got to have like braids in your hair, and you got to have incense burning, and you got to have like, candles everywhere.
Yep.
No, dude.
Man. No, it's being the purest, most authentic version of yourself. And it's funny, I just recorded an episode of Decoding the Woo Woo, and I referred to Yogananda. Yogananda is this famous yogi. I can never pronounce his first name, so I'm not even going to try. And when he was asked, if I'm going to follow this path, can I still drink and smoke and, eat chicken wings and things like that? And he was like, of course you could do all of those things. You may not want to. Because it's a whole vibratory thing, but you can. So yeah, of course, I'm like, fuck, but like whatever, This is really just about being the most authentic version of yourself, feeling peace while doing so. Because you in your head, it's like, oh, I have to be like. The only you have to be like is you. And when you figure out who you are through doing the work, then you become that.
And
you know what I mean?
And that right there, Dana, sums up why we do the show. Because we want to show 100%. You guys that by being truly, totally yourself, let your freak flag fly, just be your weird, life does become magical. It truly does. You align with people because you start attracting people who match who can like walk with you, like who can party with you, who can do whatever it is that you want to do. Like when you're like if Dana and I lived closer, I'd be like, Dana, we're going to go for a walk in the woods. You'd be like, yeah, we'll be there in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll get my spear. I don't have a spear. I'm just kidding.
Spear. What are we killing?
Just in case. Just in case.
Okay, apparently we're killing things now, just in case.
Oh my God.
Defending.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay. Digressing.
Right.
Okay. Yes. Yes, everybody, we apologize. It's a little bit of a longer episode, but this has been really fun to kind of, wrap up all of it. And before we get into the Soul Traveler card, Dana and I just kind of wanted to highlight how each of these chakras have impacted us by doing the work in those areas. So hopefully that resonated with you. But really, it is really worth to do this work, because it only will make your world, your children's world, your people's world, your coworkers, everything becomes better when you are your happiest, most aligned self. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And I was going to let it go, but I can't. When you were saying how you live in your bubble and all the politics and all the stuff going on, and that is your choice, but there are people out there that want to see what's going on. And I'm like one of those. Every once in a while, I like peek out, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I go back to my world. But here's the thing. When you find yourself aligned and at peace, you can watch all of it and not have an emotional connection to it. And that's really the key. And that is the crown chakra at its finest. Remaining calm in a sea of chaos. And so no one's telling you not to be aware of what's going on in the world. That's Angela's choice. But if you are aware, you could do it without getting sucked into the fear.
I'm glad you said that.
Really, essentially.
That's so true. Okay. Yeah. All right. So
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I created a deck of Soul Traveler cards with my artwork and beautiful channel messages by Anne-Marie Scourty. And when we knew that we were doing this conclusion today, I wanted to read this card because I think it kind of sums everything up. This is love.
I love that one.
Okay. Yeah. So the title of the card is Compassion. As you go through your alignment process, you begin to understand the depth of the ties that bind. Past and present life ideas are at work creating a foundational belief system within your psyche. Once you are aware that you are not a prisoner to these beliefs and can indeed release and restructure a new foundation for yourself, you have compassion for others. Because you now realize you are all in this together, trying to reconcile, shed misunderstandings, and become free.
What a good way to end the season.
Yeah. It's been great. I want to thank little baby Jesus. No, I'm just kidding. So, oh my God, I'm so glad we did this. Angela, you're awesome. It's like we're never going to see each other again. We'll see you at episode 6. Oh, do you want to talk about season 6 and a half?
Yeah. So because we love doing this so much, there's actually no break between the seasons. Just helps us organize the content that we provide for you guys. So starting next week, we've got a month of hanging with our peeps. So we do love when we get to do our have our special guests on. And so we decided, instead of like trying to jam them into like the chakras and make it work, like we've been trying to bring people in during the season, and it just seems to like break the flow a little bit. So we're going to have season 6.5 hanging with the Going Commando peeps. So look forward to 4 episodes of some really, really cool people, like some great people in our lives. And we're super excited, long time. And then we're going to start season 7, which is the season of worthiness. And that's going to be amazing, because Dana and I have worked on a collaborative project called I Am. It's a book. And it's a bunch of my stories reflecting on an affirmation. And it's my written word. And Dana painted a painting of me as an homage to each of those stories. And so we're going to kind of just use the affirmations as our guide for the next season. And we're just going to riff on them and stuff like that. And that's going to be really cool. So that's the season of worthiness, and it's going to be awesome. And we'll be promoting the book and all that good stuff. Starting in season 6.5, we're also going to be promoting for the whole season, Dana's beautiful book, A Woman's Journey.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
So when we have our guests, we're doing a pre-sale soon. The book is phenomenal. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be doing little clips of that for each of the next four episodes. And I'm super excited. Long time. We'll have everything you need. So it's so good.
It's so beautiful.
Good.
It's so beautiful.
So
It's
so good. I got you. Okay. So thank you everybody for hanging in on season 6. There's lots of good stuff coming up. Great people to meet, and we're going to be doing some new things. Like super excited. So stick around and stay fresh, cheese bags.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Stay fresh, cheese bags. Bye.